What's up, everyone? Tyler Tamboline here, aka ToeTagginTambo, back for another edition of the Monday Resultsdb PGA show. Got my guy TJ Laessig. TJ, what's happening, my man?
Tambo had the old fifth major, as they call it, this weekend. Thought we were gonna have another Westwood DeChambeau Sunday battle down the stretch, but Justin Thomas had other thoughts and put on quite a performance, I would say, on Sunday to come from behind a few strokes, get that win. But exciting tournament. It's always an interesting one, right? You see low numbers, high numbers with just so many water hazards on that course. Anything can happen, and you can see some big numbers get put up on some of those holes.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt, and I'll use this one again, I'm sure, throughout the week. But the P in players stands for pressure. That was something else. Sunday, that whole 20-minute spread of the Brendan Todd, second island shot, if you will, where he almost went for it. I kind of, everyone joked about this, but I would hope he hit it and then had to find a way to get over to that little second island and hit a second shot there, but not to be there. And then obviously, something that we'll probably never see again, Bryson top a shot. It wasn't, says it wasn't even a top, but it was pretty interesting, if you will. And so there was that, and that double bogey, by the way, was world class. One of the best you'll ever see. I think anybody else, in this given time that we've seen lately, probably would have been a quad there or worse and taken them right out. He only ended up losing the tournament by 2 strokes. And that's just like a pure fluke that even happened. So could have been a lot better day for Bryson, a back-to-back session. The funny part about Lee Westwood is his second place. He sneaked in that birdie on 18 from a little ways out, 13, 15 feet, whatever it was. Ended up winning more money for second place this week. Well, I think it was like 70,000 less. I won't say more. It's less still, but 70,000, I think, less was the number than if he had have won the API last week. So pretty crazy. The money here, obviously 2.7 million going to JT. Love to see that. Noto and I talked Wednesday. I was on it all week long. I know everybody in the world had a JT ticket. That was sort of the joke, but at 20-1, you hang that out there. That was like Brooks earlier in the season when we hit with Brooks. It's like, you're going to put these numbers out there. We're going to hammer them and hope for the best. And couldn't believe it worked out. Halfway through Sunday when JT was 1 over through 9, I was thinking, oh, here we go. Now I remember why he's not making any putts, because pretty much everyone in the world has a bet on him, and it's not likely that these community things hit too often. So I really didn't think it was going to come through, but he played incredible, man. 17 out of 18 greens, missed the 18th green by like 2 inches. I think his dad said after, I love that his dad's like his coach too, and basically knew everything that happened. He said, Jimmy Johnson, his caddy, said he just put on a ball striking clinic. His dad right away. Yeah, that fairway on 15 and the green on 18. I think those are the only 2 he missed. Just knows like that, right? They really did. Bones Mackay called it a Hogan-esque experience out there. That was pretty high compliments, and I think it definitely was. He's 28 years old. I can't remember, but now he's got a WGC, a major, the Players, a FedEx Cup. He's got it all. Overcame some adversity. He's been going through some personal and brought on himself. Other stuff, obviously outside factors, unfortunate events of his grandfather passing and the Tiger, being his good friend, getting in that car accident. So good to see, good for him. I had a pretty good week, TJ. It could have been a lot better. Everything that was for the positive was left behind in the 71-25. If I got a little time later, I'll talk about my experience there, but some other guys had some pretty big weeks. How about yourself? How was your week overall?
Not the best week for me, unfortunately. I was pretty heavy on both Patrick Cantlay and Webb Simpson, both of which missed the cut. Man. So tough misses there. Not my best week overall, but still happy with the process and the approach that I wanted to take. And it's just one of those kind of higher variance tournaments where I think feels like every year we see some stud elite golfers that just go ahead and miss the cut here just because that can happen. So
some big busts for sure. You mentioned it with Cantlay there, Webb, Hatton, Finau, Rory McIlroy, just to name some. These are some big time names in a big time tournament. Rory's the quote unquote defending champion based on the fact that it got shut down a year ago without, with coronavirus coming in and Hideki leading after 1. So technically the defending champ was Rory McIlroy. And Noto, that was his hot take to end the Wednesday show last week. He said Rory Sabatini makes the cut and Rory McIlroy doesn't. The better Rory. And sure enough, and then there was some back and forth between Sabatini. By the way, every shot was great. Speaking of that, the back and forth between Sabatini and Spieth there, where Spieth, I don't know if you saw this, Spieth drove it into him. And then I think it was the First Cut podcast, put them side by side where you could see the commentary of Rory Sabatini being pissed and Spieth commenting like, damn, that was the worst person I could have hit that into, he said. But I think he likes me. He said, I think he likes me still. So we'll see. But yeah, really cool to have every shot like that. They really pulled it off. I know a lot of people thought that might not be the case, and it certainly was an incredible experience to watch and be able to go back and see some of these shots that you never get to see. So hopefully we can get that for more of the staple events on tour, at least where they are stationary every year. And we've got the same location where they can just continuously make it better and improve upon it. But I digress, man. We'll move on. We'll look at some of the stuff. For those of you that are joining us for the first time, this show is obviously looking at the results of the tournaments over the weekend, trying to see what happened on DraftKings as far as overall results, strategies, ownership project, like but what everybody did basically with their pools, whether it's, their exposures, how they built, all these things kind of tying together with what I do on the Wednesday night show where we talk about these certain builds. I certainly made some mistakes. I'll look at some of those as we go through it, but if you guys haven't been with us, you're just going to PGA Resultsdb. You're simply changing the date at the top to the Thursday start of the tournament you want to look at. You can go back further. I'm using this week, obviously, to keep it relevant, but you're going to contests. And we're going to like talking about this one. We've got a fan favorite here. Took down quite a few dollars in this tournament. First, second, eighth, and ninth, or ninth and 10th. I can't remember, but our guy, Big T, love this guy, man. Good guy across the industry. Everybody loves Big T. If you don't, I don't know what's wrong with you. Awesome dude. Twitter game is strong. Gift game strong. Now is, giblets, you name it, whatever you want to call it, but love to see this. So not sure why Resultsdb is showing 3 lineups per every finish, but just so you guys know, when we go through it, I mean, he didn't come 3 first places. He'd like that. And the prizes are a little off because it's skewed with the Tournament of Championship entry, which will be at the year end, where it's basically a winner take all of all the Millie Maker winners across all sports. They had it last year. It looks like a lot of fun. It's somewhere we strive to be and all want to get to. I already had it pulled up over here, so you guys can see it, but talk to me about it, TJ. Big T took it down. This was a pretty nice lineup. Justin Thomas, Bryson DeChambeau, Kokrak, Garcia, Connors, Harman. Little bit of a mixture, but I thought one of the biggest things, and I'll give it to you, but the 49,100 spent and took it down quite easily. I mean, he took it down over himself with 603.5 in the second place. There was old Seabass, right there, Seabass 33. But what are your thoughts on this lineup and just overall as a whole? 4 top 10s, including the first and second prize.
Yeah, just a great lineup. Definitely the first thing that sticks out is leaving that 900 on the table. That we often talk about in some of these major type fields, major priced fields, when we get a little bit of some softer pricing, that it's more viable to leave some cash on the table. So good on Big T there. And then, I mean, really just nailed it across the board in terms of the players he's picking, skipping over the 11 and 10K range, skipping over the 8K range, starting a really strong JT, Bryson start to the lineup. And then just 4, solid kind of long-term golfers there that I think you and I are both pretty heavy on these 4 guys for the most part in any given tournament, right? Kokrak, Garcia, Connors, Harman. Connors was my favorite value play of this week. I mean, the guy just continues to put up performances each and every week and continues to be underpriced, in my opinion, across both the DFS and the betting streets. Harman, a guy that the RG fam typically loves, Noto's boy right there.
Oh yeah.
I'm always a fan of Harman as well. I know that you've been on the Sergio train lately, and then Kokrak is another guy that we're always on. So really just solid lineup overall, and a lineup that I could see myself getting to, except I do not know if I would have left 900 on the table. So that's probably the leak that would have prevented myself from getting to this kind of lineup.
Yeah, the lineup speaks for itself. You mentioned, I think one of the biggest things for me was the Bryson factor. You just can't leave this guy out anymore at these types of prices because his all-around game is there. Like I said, that double was world-class and probably just wouldn't even have happened. Like, it's just a bad tee shot that turned into a mistake that it can happen to anybody. Like I said, the P in players stands for pressure. It definitely showed out. A lot of these guys, Sergio down the stretch had made some mistakes. Connors had an incredible Sunday and still missed a couple short putts and missed a bunch on Saturday. So it just goes to show, like, the whole weekend, you have to put 4 full rounds together. And JT, a prime example, we all liked him to win the thing anyway, but think about it, 7 strokes back going into Saturday and post a 64-68 out. So that just goes to show how much of a grinder you've got to be. Brian Harman is sort of the definition of a grinder, played the Kevin Kisner role, if you will, of this season, right? Where it's like kind of get the most money possible. I think he got 885,000 for third place. Speaking of which, Bryson and Harman each picked up 885,000. The Big T screenshot was 1.2 milli in profit. So another just huge shout out to Big T. Love to see it. Just awesome, man. And for a community member to win, a guy that everybody knows, it just shows it can happen, right? We're all waiting for that opportunity. We're all trying to make this happen. And Gotta love it. Pigskin in a blanket. Another great guy, great player out there. Was right up in the mix. We're just looking back though. Big T, 49-1, 49-4. That's his 9th and 10th place. Let me get this correct. Yeah, 9th and 10th place. 49-3. Ended up being a chop with Seabass. The Lee Westwood birdie in the last caused that. I believe he had Lee. Yeah, he did, which put the birdie up to tie that. Or was another 25K, but I think he'll be all right. And then you mentioned it, 49-1 here. So just the right mix of these players. We're going to flip over and look at ownership for a second here for Big T because he's the winner and go through it. You want to talk about leverage, TJ? We do this every week, man. Look at this. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's basically what we talk about. I mean, everyone's got a little something on them. You can go further, but I just think if you look at the top 8, I mean, 5 of them are in blue, which tells you like way off the chart. Like Harman's 4%, 37. It says 450 in entries. This is 150. Like I said, for whatever reason, everything's being tripled. So it just goes to show again. But yeah, talk to me about what you see here and just your overall thoughts on this.
Might be the most leveraged player pool we've ever seen, and a very small pool overall. And I think that's why, as we're clicking through those lineups, I think they were all just 1v1s of the same 5 guys, and then replacing the last guy or maybe 4 of the same 5 guys. So, first off, kudos to Big T on that strategy. I think it's one that I've talked about being kind of my preference, so that when you hit big. And I don't think you can define when you hit big bigger than his week here. Not only taking down the Millie Maker and 3 in the top 10 there, but I think he also took down the Drive the Green for 100K with the.
Yeah,
with
we don't need to talk about the Drive the Green this week because
he's got the same
he's got the same 150 pumped into it. So good on him. But like you said, a good breakdown. It kind of shows though too some mistakes can be made still, right? When you go this route, we've seen this in the past, and I'll speak to it again. But Webb, Finau, 2 guys who I'll bring up later when we get to my 71-25. They were the guys in my mega. Webb and Finau, so they didn't make it through. You were heavy on Cantlay, which we'll get to. Instead of reviewing the winners of the Drive the Green, we'll look at your player pool just to get thoughts. I mean, it still helps with this type of stuff. But yeah, the rest of it, bang on. JT, Bryson, Answer, Connors, Harman. These were all the guys in the top, 5, 10 in the tournament with Connors included there, who also had a huge Sunday. Like Connors was, like I said, just a weekend of what could have been for him because he really didn't have it together on Saturday as far as making putts. His ball striking was still there, so it was no surprise on Sunday. But that kind of speaks to, too, for those that don't know, I do a Saturday night round 4 showdown show, and, Connors was a darling on Saturday for everybody's lineups that didn't come through. It really was a nice spot or a pivot to go to on Sunday, just to go back to that, because it's not like anything else was really off. It was just whether or not he was going to, get opportunities again. It was highly likely that he would. So maybe any other thoughts on this one, TJ, and we'll continue on here and going through the rest of this tournament.
I just agree with what you said there around, the Webb, Cantlay, and Richie Wensky. Three of the guys that he went super heavy on missed the cut, and he was still able to survive. So it just goes to show you that when you have that core that really, really hits with the JT, Bryson, and Harman, I mean, really the three-man core there is what took it down for him. And then you sprinkle in some different pieces and find yourself $1 million richer. So shout out again to Big T, great lineup, great player pool, and congrats. It looked like from what I saw on Twitter that he was enjoying himself and celebrating a little bit last night as he should.
Did see that. I looked great as well. So you see here though, just to back to your point here, this is also why we talk sometimes about even when you're going this way with your pool, excuse me, I do like to expand it still a little bit because like we said up here, he just needs to get, 4 of these guys right out of these 8. And so if you look at JT, Bryson, Connors, Harman, there's your 4. Okay. Obviously Abe can slide into the mix, Matthew Fitzpatrick, but then as you go down here, again, we still got a lot of leverage in here or close to, but Fitzpatrick hits, Zalatoris, Kokrak, Sergio, Hoffman. He was still quite look at Hoffman, 2% up to 16, like that, at 90 points, that's a lot. And these are the sprinkles that you're looking to hit your lineup, the Sergios, right? The Lee Westwoods, 5 over. It's not a lot, but I'm saying this is why you're still sprinkling and why you don't necessarily just want to cut your pool off at these 12 guys and have a bunch of all of them, right? You want to still mix it around. We'll go back here. I like going through my lineup was pretty close. It had a 1. So it was like a first place. It had a 1. It just had, a few too many ones, and it came with a couple less commas. So my best finish, I did put 150 into this tournament. I got 550.5. And if you look here, so JT, the same, Answer, Sergio, Harman. I mean, these are all similar types. I think his was JT, Sergio, and Harman. So I needed Connors right here. I needed Kokrak here and come down to Bryson. And me and Big T can chop that thing up. But that's just the way it goes, right? This is what you're looking at. I know you were high on Rom. You want to talk about a guy to keep an eye on? If people want to go off of him, this guy literally played, to me, what I saw from watching enough golf and seeing John Rahm do his thing. Like, I would say that was his C game on Sunday, and he's still right there up in the mix. Like, he was just, short off. So I think that's something to keep an eye on. I know it's John Rahm. You're like, obviously we're keeping an eye on world number 2, but if you look at just the facts, how that affects in tournaments going forward, like look at JT. It took, 2 tournaments off where some of the reasons were actually valid. Like I said, his grandfather had passed. He had to do his interview 15 minutes after the next week after the Tiger Woods car crash. So there's situations where people were just sort of leaving him out of the mix. And at 9,900 and 20-1, it was easy to go back to that, which, why I was so heavy on him. We'll go look at that stuff in a second, but just to show, right there in the mix, I thought my trajectory was going up. It's went back a little bit, TJ, but I really like the Honda. So when you're following along stuff this week, keep an eye out on what I'm talking about, because I'm really excited for this one. I got a good feel on it. So look at my player pool here just to show you guys. Oh, sorry. I think I got it up there. So anybody who watched last week, my conviction plays were Hatton, JT, Garcia, and Answer. Connors was sliding into the mix as the week went on. And obviously JT I was high on. So, JT, Hatton, Garcia, Answer, those were the 4. The ones that came in behind were Webb, Finau, Rahm. Talked about them all week. I was with you a little bit on Cantlay, but didn't really want to go more than Field. For those that want to check it, just to make sure, way underweight on Rory at only 4%. Didn't have much of him. Dustin Johnson, 5%. Like, I'll play those guys. Like I said, I sprinkled them in strong fields in 2v2s as just, it's hard to pick between DJ and Webb or going up to JT and coming down to Rahm. Basically the same cost. Rahm, JT looks better to me, so went with more of those, but I couldn't fault you for going with Webb and DJ and some just to get that mix. And I knew DJ would be a little bit lower owned, but that's just the way it goes. So again, we're not going to spend too much time on this, TJ, but just a lot of leverage, right? I got, all these are green or higher up to the blue at the top. Hatton was disappointing. I mean, this is where the problem is. Hatton, Webb, and Finau. And anybody who's, following along, I won't be able to show you because Resultsdb only gives you the top 100 of a tournament. But my main lineup that I put into the 71-25 was Hatton, Finau, Webb, these 3 at the top here. And, off my conviction plays a little bit just because those guys, I'm always chalky a little bit in those anyway, but I was struggling with, and that's why I want to talk about this because, talk about high stakes and we'll use it as a single entry perspective. It was a 300-man, very expensive buy-in. 1 entry is all I can put into that. So, that's where I was at, but I went with Hatton, Webb, Finau, Zalatoris, Harman, and then I had Sungjae in there. He wasn't a favorite of mine. I was overweight on him, but I really did come around on him as the week went on for something like that. And my goal was to try and get, some of these 8K guys, and I really couldn't find a JT lineup that I liked, that I thought wouldn't be, super replicated or duplicated, if you will, where I was going to be sort of, I've always done this in these higher stakes things where I find that I always end up, and maybe some of you do out there as well, on like a 2v2. Or like you can't really get any leverage. And then of course this week I pegged the bottom. Sungjae super low owned. He was 9% in that tournament. He comes in at 9% and puts up all those points. And then you find I'm trying to jump over to it here. Sungjae was coming in at 9%. Harman was coming in at 4.3%. Ended up on the winning lineup. So I wish going back I had have seen this, but the most unique JT lineup that I could have ran. And of course, hindsight's 2020 and I see it today, TJ, but if I had a swap, I left $100 on the table. So if I had have swapped Webb up to JT for 400, I would have been able to swap down from Finau to Berger. I wasn't going off Hatton. You saw he was my highest owned and I loved him. I liked Harman quite a bit. I liked Willie Z to make the cut and do his thing. And that left me with Sungjae, who I was more than fine with. There was just so many ways I could have done it differently. I could have got Casey instead of Sungjae and still been okay and made the swap. There's a lot of different things, but I digress again. There was nothing much there for me. So I just thought I would talk through that with you guys to give you an idea. Did you play any single entry this week, TJ? Did you have a main build this week on DraftKings?
I did. And I got 2 out of 6 through the cut. Very impressive. I had, let's see, I have it up now. I had Cantlay and Webb, both missed the cut, obviously. And then I had Scheffler, who was my kind of cheaper pivot, and my guy Tringali. Again, all 4 of those guys missed the cut, and then I had Neiman and Connors. So I still like the build looking at it, but obviously results wise was not good and was pretty much dead right from Thursday. Honestly, one of those weeks, but it happens.
And you see it all after, right? Like I'm just spitballing because I remember everything, but I think Tringali 7,200. You take him down 300 to Harmon. You take Scheffler down to Berger 100. There's your 400 to go from Webb to JT. Like bang, 3v3, and you've got it, right? And I know it sounds like obviously we're talking very results oriented at this point, but I'm just saying you see it afterwards. And these are all plays that we liked and talked about throughout the week. So,
sure.
We had a lot of them in our pool. It's just all comes down to that construction. And like you say, sometimes it's just getting the right pieces of the puzzle in the right places. And that's what we look at. So no need to go through the Drive the Green. Shout out to all the RG members that finished up top, Rainmaker, the Commish, Mock Lovin, great dude, David Mock. This guy's an awesome guy. Notorious though, 11th place in the Drive the Green. Check it out. We got JT, Casey, Sungjae, Fitz, Kokrak, and Connors. And this is what I'm saying. Like, this is what I wish I had found in the 7125, because this is kind of what Notorious thought. We talked about 2 8K guys. 3 looks like clearly the play here. 582.5 would have won the 7125 by over 50 points. So just flipping back to it here. But yeah, it's a really nice build, right? Casey, Fitzpatrick, everybody just did enough. And then you had the winner. So yeah, it's tough because it's in the $5. But looking at this, even from a single entry perspective, TJ, because we're going to go to the $200 single entry in a second. This to me just stands out as a really nice build. We love JT. We thought he was underpriced. We know he's just as much of a winner in this tournament as the guys above him. He already had 13 PGA Tour wins, now adds a 14th. Then you got Casey, Fitzpatrick, grinders that play tough courses well in tough fields. Sungjae will be an extremely popular piece going into this week when we talk about the Honda Open, or the Honda Classic, I should say. And then you've got Kokrak and Connors at the bottom. Notorious was very high on Connors and talked me into him even further on Wednesday. So what are your thoughts on that lineup for our boy Notorious here in 11th place?
That's a great lineup. A very no-toe lineup too, I must say. I feel like all of these guys are ones that he's always heavy on and always trying to play on a week-to-week basis. But yeah, I agreed with you. I think it's a great lineup that could be used in pretty much any format. I could see this being used in a single entry or a 3 max. See this being used, obviously, as he did in a 150 max. But good construction, pretty balanced overall, which I like in these kinds of fields. With the cheapest guy being Connors at 7,400. So great build overall. And if only he found a way to get his guy Harmon into this lineup, maybe he would have been up there towards the top.
Yeah, Answer was 70.5. Sergio was 94.5. I was just looking at one thing here just to talk about back through it, because I think it's, we're talking about $5 Drive the Green, but this is kind of, I always like to tie the Wednesday show in, and this is what we had talked about. And I really wish, like you just mentioned it there, TJ, no 11s, no 10s, no 6s, knowing everyone's going to be high on the 9K range. We just went through it with our pools: Webb, JT, Finau, Cantlay, just to name 4 of them. Bryson was getting a little love later in the week, but not enough. So, if you look at Bryson, I don't think he was still 13%. So there you go. Like, I knew he was getting a little bit of late steam there. So this just goes to show, right? This is how we want to think of these builds. This is why we use this show and the Wednesday show to tie them together, to go back and look at these things. And here it is. Like, there was the only guys I was using in the 8K range. I know you had Scheffler, but it is what it is. I'm just saying was for me, Berger, Casey, obviously Hatton, Sungjae, Fitzpatrick. That's sort of the guys I was using. So if you just plugged 3 of those in, they were going completely overlooked. Pick your favorite guy up top. You landed in this range where you were now with a different build that landed in this range versus like the Rom JTs or the JT Webb, Burgers, whatever those JT Webb Hattons were landing in the same $7,500 range, where yes, you were going to get it right with Connors, Answer, Garcia, but that's so chalky. It's so replicated out there. Everybody has some similar build or just a 1v1 or 2v2 away. And even then, if the results didn't pan out, you still had the potential for a Webb, Cantlay, or Finau being in that build and losing out those guys to the cut where you had a 4 out of 6 or a 3 out of 6 or whatever it might be. So even if you had a 4 out of 6 there and lose Webb and Hatton in that build, you're still out and you're not getting anywhere near the top. This was a way to get around it where you could still get to that top. And we said it all week. The 8K guys were definitely, in my opinion, stronger than the 7K guys on paper. So it wasn't hard to fit them into your lineups. And we had real winners that could get there. Im came second at the Masters. Hatton had been on a winning spree over the last year. including the API the previous year and a couple big Euro events that he won. Casey had been coming off a win just a few weeks earlier. Fitzpatrick, top 5 in a bunch of tournaments. Berger coming off a win just a few weeks earlier. So all those guys were very viable. And that's why we're spending so much time on it here, just to look at that. We'll have a look here quick, see Noto's pool if it's up. Just want to see Notorious. It looks to be a little updated now, showing 150. And sorry, TJ, I'm just going to pull you out for a second. We'll go to yours right after, man. And
Yeah, no problem.
Talk through it. But Noto came 11th. We want to see. And then lastly, flip back. I just want to see one more thing here, guys, if Noto had anything else. Yeah, 93rd, 167th, 339th. He was peppering the top for sure with this pool. So let's definitely take a look at our boy Noto here, give him a little feature. Love Noto, love what he does. You know, we're going to be doing a lot more. And by the way, guys, give you a quick heads up now. I don't know if it's for sure for tomorrow night, but it is going to be for, if not this week, next week and going forward. We are looking at changing the Tuesday night Drive for Show, DFS for Dough show to a free show, where it's actually going to be sort of just a, you know, a first looky, go around the table as we always do, a little bit of entertaining side of things where we're going through stuff. And we are going to flip that. It's going to go on to the live feed so you guys can get it as a podcast as well, but give you a little bit more of a look inside to what we're doing. But then you got to remember how much stuff we have out there that is premium. I talk about it all the time, but my Wednesday show really ties all this stuff together. We've got TJ's value plays article. We've got Noto's core plays and his vid. His video is, I would call his vid, his model video where he's going through and showing you guys everything that he's doing and where he gets all his plays from, which I use every single week. And then, of course, Cards, one of the best tournament players in the world, in my opinion, as far as PGA DFS goes, and across multi-sports. We're about to get to baseball, where he gets his name from, and we know that. So we'll talk about that another day. But his GPP article is very strong as well, and you want to get access to that. So that's kind of the goal there, get a little bit more light on some of the other stuff we're doing over here with RG Premium. But I think it's going to be awesome. So check that out. Giving back to this here with Noto's pool. What's the standout for me is right at the top. TJ, what do you see?
Yeah, it really does stand right out at you. 78% on the winner, Justin Thomas. So great call on that, obviously by Noto, and then pretty spread out. I mean, still seeing lots of leverage. Everyone is in green, getting overweight on the guys that he likes, but really just going heavy on JT and then kind of spreading things out from there, which obviously great result in terms of JT's finishing position. And that's why we see him in 11th place. But, and then also just looking at all these names, right? All solid golfers, all solid long-term guys and guys that I was definitely looking at in my player pools as well.
Yeah. And it also ties into what we just talked about. So it's kind of becoming our theme of the week, TJ, but you're allowed to make mistakes, right? And again, you made a great play and JT going almost 80%. That'll, solve a lot of problems, kind of like the winning solves everything mantra or whatever you will, if you will. But JT at, 78% is great, but look at them, quote unquote mistakes. Webb, Cantlay, Fleetwood, Hatton, Harris English withdraw 20% in his pool. Like, you know what I mean? Like, look at all these things that happened that didn't go right. But then if you got JT, Connors, he had a lot of conviction behind, Answer and Fitzpatrick, Sung Jae, Casey, Will Zalatoris. You get enough things right and you have yourself that ability. And again, he gave himself shots at the top. Didn't quite get there, but 582 is not far off from 610. It's just a few different, one click away basically from taking it down. So I think that's great to look at. And just goes to show, like I said, all those guys you can have in your lineups that don't get through. Some of the other big missed cuts, by the way, Hideki, Finau, Fleetwood. I mean, those just get added into the pool that we talked about earlier. So certainly something. And then we'll look at this, longtime member, Kevin Barnhill, at, his username, Sammy Davis Jr., no vowels for the Davis there, but he's got 529 held off Hoop, another, community guy. I love Hoop. Good week for him. I saw on FanDuel as well. So congrats to him over there. And Hoop 2410 came in second, but Sammy Davis tagged us up and said, thanks for the content, boys. Managed to hold off Hoop and the rest down below. So it was nice to see there with 529. Did use the max salary here, TJ, different than what we've seen for the rest of these lineups, but JT, Morikawa, Fitzpatrick, Zalatoris, Answer, Connors. What are your thoughts on this build?
Another really solid build. Obviously, you can see it's a bit of a chalkier build with, almost 5 players being 20% owned, but still great lineup, great construction. It's the first time we've seen Morikawa in one of these builds. So it really seemed like this, one or two guys in the 9K range, and then going heavy on the 7K guys that overperformed seemed to be the winning construction for this week. But hey, love to see one entry in it and taking it home for 150K. Another nice lineup here. But what do you think about the lineup?
I like it. Yeah, for first to second place, another huge gap, right? 150,000
crazy
versus 50, and then it drops right down to 25 and 17. So some of these swings are just insane. But congrats again to him. It looks really good. I think the thing that stands out is while it is chalky in the sense of 4 guys over 20% in this tournament, 2 and like nobody under 10, that's fine. It can still work. It goes to show it can still work. But you can also see where there was room for error. Like, a good thing this is how he went about it, because you take Zalatoris down to Sergio, which is an even more common setup of this build. Like, the more common setup of this build was JT Webb. Basically, let's use the 2v2. Morikawa Zalatoris to Webb Sergio would likely be way more popular. Let's see if we can find them here, because probably won't find Webb because he didn't make the cut, but I just wanted to see what Sergio's ownership was if we could. I guess the best way to do it is probably this. What was Sergio owned? I guess Sergio wasn't getting a lot of love that last week, 11% in this tournament. Yeah, that was one of the things that stood out to me too, with his track record here at this tournament and how he wasn't getting love. That's why we were so high on him on the Wednesday show, and he was one of my conviction plays last week. But Webb, 27%, Morikawa 23. Not much of a difference, but if you look at what had happened lately and recently, by far Morikawa had been the guy to go after there. So again, shout out to Sammy Davis Jr., Kevin, awesome job, man. Love to see that, taking it down 150,000. That'll be huge. And the good news, if you were agonizing whether or not it would have won the $1 million in the 71.25, it would not, and you would have taken home the same prize. So you got in for much less, almost just over 10% of the buy-in, and took away the same money. So you don't have to worry about would it have won you $1 million in the bigger tournament. So if that was on your mind, you can rest easy. Good job, man. 150,000. That's awesome. Just lastly, we'll end out on this one, TJ. We've got the $200 single entry. And any thoughts on this? So HeebieGB3 took it down, 561 points, got a JT, Bryson, and then 4 7K guys with Cam Smith, Zalatoris, Answer, and Connors. Thoughts on just, I got some thoughts, but go ahead. But thoughts on this lineup, and then, congrats to HeebieGB. Shout out to the RG members, Fox Force and Chucky C in second and third there. Guys still taking home 30 and 20,000. Much more balanced payout structure, though, in this one. I do like that. You don't feel as bad when you come in second because it's not $100,000 difference. It's 20,000. So what are your thoughts on this lineup and just a single entry as a whole in last week's tournament?
Yeah, I love these kind of payout structures first and foremost, right? Less than 20% to first, nice and flat. I wish that they would price a lot more of the tournaments in this way. But another great lineup here. I think I look at all 6 of these golfers and their price tags, and I think that they're all underpriced relative to their abilities as a golfer. And I think that's one indicator of a good lineup, right? And then it has a nice kind of ownership breakdown from a single entry perspective, getting Bryson and Cam Smith at that lower end range, a couple of the chalkier guys up top, but nothing too crazy. Really nice build. And I think a good build for single entries, just because it's so solid. Can't poke any holes in any of the golfers that they picked, and then just really balanced. Again, only 9Ks and 7Ks, like you said. It seems like that was kind of the winning strategy this week. I guess outside of the 6,900 Harmon seems to be the one primary exception that we've seen. But that JT Bryson combo, it seems like starting there would have led you to pretty decent builds, no matter what you did with the rest of the 4 spots.
Yeah, and we'll round up the show here. I think that's well said, because the thing is, that's what we're trying to tie together when we're talking about these things each week, is that you either had to get away from that 9K range completely, besides JT, kind of like how Noto's lineup was previous, especially for single entry, which I'm trying to tie it into here right now, or you have to find a way to be different within the common range. And we talk about these ranges every week. So this one's no 11s, no 10s, no 8s, no 6s. It's not saying of every week, if you just fade those ranges, you're going to win. That's not what we're saying. We're saying, can you be different even when you're utilizing those ranges? So I remember from the Wednesday show saying it looks like at least 3, if not 4, 7K guys will be popular. But then how can you get different within those ranges? And that can still work in single entry as well, because the clear, it was easiest to, we just did it in the 888. We just looked at it here. I might still have it up. If you go back, maybe I don't, but ownership, we'll look at this one. Morikawa, Cantlay, Finau, Webb. There's the 4 highest owned guys in the Drive the Green are all lower 9K, right? So 95, 91, 92, and 9,400 were their prices. You go over to this lineup here, and it's JT, who we knew everyone was going to be on for good reason. We loved him. But then skipping the bottom of the 9K range and going up to Bryson at the top, that left you so that if you were still in the 7K range, you were already different within the 7K range. So if your choice was to not go there, I mean, there was other opportunities here. You could have went from Zalatoris down $700 and then brought Cam Smith up to a guy like Casey or Im, or you could have went down Connors to Harmon for 500 and brought Cam Smith up to Casey or Harmon or to Im and still made the same score because Harmon outdid Connors and Casey and Im outdid Cam Smith. It's just to give you an example, but I think a lot of people also had Fleetwood here. So again, talking about being different within the ranges. Okay, I'm going to use the high end of the 9K with JT, who I just can't get away from. He's a great play. I think Connors and Answer are the best value plays, so I'm going to go with them. Again, Answer could have been Sergio or vice versa if Connors had been him and Answer went down to Harmon and Cam Smith goes up. They're just showing you examples of how you can use these ranges to your advantage without having to get crazy. And again, it all ties back to this, and then we'll get out of here, TJ. I think everyone focuses too much every week looking for this diamond in the rough play, right? Who is going to be my $6,200 play that made a Monday qualifier and now can come out and maybe win this thing or whatever it might be on any random given week. And the focus needs to be on the construction and the thought process of what are other people doing and what can I do to leverage that and be different and get myself to the top of this tournament. And that's what we're trying to tie in here. So I'll kick it over to you, TJ. Any final thoughts? If not, or if you do, let the people know where they can find you, and then we'll get out of here and what you got going on this week as far as content's concerned.
Yeah, just thought it was a great tournament. Great to kick off the kind of preview into major season. We'll of course have the Masters coming up in a few short weeks, so looking forward to that. Bit of a weaker field event, but still a fun one with the Honda this coming weekend. So we'll have the typical content schedule coming out this week, value article coming out on Tuesday, and you guys can find me on Twitter at TJL5124DFS. So give me a follow there, and looking forward to another exciting week of PGA DFS coming up.
Yeah, I think it's card. You're not on with me on the Wednesday show, are you, this week? I think it's cards. I'll have to check it out after. I'll let everybody know. I just can't remember or not, but those are always good weeks. You can check it out. I'll get us out of here just on the.
Yeah, I think I'm on with you next week.
I think so too. I think it goes Noto cards, and then I was just trying to think. We love those weeks, so we could tie it all together. That'll be a fun one though if you are on the following week, because I believe that's the WGC match play, and it is literally a strategy show. It is not a player pool show. It's yes, you'll have a player pool. Don't get me wrong, but it's all how you build your lineups. Every year, people are still making mistakes with it, so it's fun. There's a lot of opportunity just in that alone. That's basically the rake usually, and then it's do you pick the right guys within the pools as far as the pool A, B, C, and D are broken down within the match play. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's an exciting one. That'll be fun.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so you're good. We're good there. So it'll be you and I for that week. I believe it's Cards and I for this week, which is awesome. So guys, check us out on the Wednesday show. I mentioned it. Keep your eyes out if it's going to be free tomorrow. If not, you guys are all premium members as well, so you can hop onto the Tuesday show. As always, a lot of fun with Noto, Cards, and myself. For this week, guys, it was a lot of fun. I'm really excited though about this tournament, the Honda. So keep in mind, this is a field where it's quote unquote weak, but it's an extremely strong track to play on. It's a tough tournament. There's a lot of trends and factors that go into it. If you look into the past, so stick with us, stay tuned for all the content that goes into it, because I think it's one we can peg. I think, a lot of people think that, but when you go out and you actually have to execute, there's a lot of factors that go into it. And I'm excited to talk about this one. I was there live last year. It's honestly one of the best tournaments, most enjoyable to watch both live and on TV. That's why I had to get down there, because I was watching it every year on TV. You'll remember some of the winners. Ricky Fowler's won it. Keith Mitchell won it with an 18-foot bomb right in front of Koepka and Fowler as they were watching him to see if there was going to be a playoff, and he makes that and gets his first tour win. So I think that was, something that just stood out to me and why I love this tournament so much. But there's a lot of great things that can happen down the stretch. JT won it in a playoff over Luke List. There's just a lot of fun stuff that happens at this tournament. Last year, Sung Jae -6 to take this thing down. This week, we're supposed to get a lot of weather, big wind on Sunday too. So it should make it a lot of fun. You guys know where you can find me on Twitter at ToeTagginTambo. Follow me there. I'll post out some things throughout the week. Let you guys know where I'm at for all my other content. Other than that, thank you and good luck.